Hope this is today's coffee. I think it is, but just the very thought kind of stresses me out a little bit. Windows. So I love I hate Windows. I don't know how I feel about Windows. One of the first things I feel people try to do when they learn CG, the first thing I try to do is like, oh, I'm gonna make a room. So you add a cube. You're like, I'll make it more room shaped, and then you take a face here and you go, okay, well, I'll extrude it into like a window shape and delete that. And look at that, I made a window, and then you add a little light and you make it brighter. And like, you tell me you haven't made this exact. It looks so much cooler in path tracing. It used to look like that, and you had to add like other point lights inside to kind of fake the bounce to kind of simulate, the bounce sliding. Rendering today is so cool, but yeah, there are now better ways to do this. Like now, instead of like insetting or extruding to make a window, I'll add edge loops to keep everything nice and square. And here, let's see, and then I'll probably inset it, extrude it out, grab these, and let's say extrude individual faces and scale them down because all the windows around me have like this trim kind of around the edges. And here, let's add an edge loop here with Control R, pull it out, Control B to bevel, scroll up to add some stuff here, and then I'm going to use Control R to add another edge loop here, Control B, and we're going to make like the little inset window frame, Alt E, extrude faces along normals, inset again, we'll make, another little thing here. Grab this one edge here, duplicate it, extrude it out, fill about half the window, select the whole thing here, hit inset. We'll make the little kind of window frame, sliding window within, the suburban window. X, delete that face, and then I'll extrude that back, set it into the window frame here, and here, let's add individual tracks going along the inside. So I'll select just inside this track, Control B to bevel it again, Alt E, extrude faces along normal, yes. So this will be the fixed window frame, the other one will be the sliding one, so we'll bring it over and this way, and here, let's add a place to be able to grip the window from, like a little handle. That's the word I'm looking for. Extrude that out. And there we go. We got like a little house window. Cool. Now I can alt click on one of these loops here along the inside of the window frame. Hit Shift D, turn it into its own loop here. F to turn it into a face. Maybe scale it up a little bit and place it in the window. In fact, let's hit E to extrude it out and give it a little bit of depth. Gonna select all of it and hit Shift N to recalculate the normals just to make sure they're facing outside. And here, we'll give the whole thing just kind of a white material and a second material here, which will be glass. Change this to glass, turn the roughness down, and with this window pane selected, we will select glass and hit assign. And here, let's put this into the other window frame too. And having the panes of glass at actually different depths is one of those subtle things that adds a lot to the realism. Now here, let's load it in an HDRI, if I can remember how to do it. Yeah, let's put it in a meadow. And I'm going to select the glass material, and I'm going to mix it with a transparent shader using the light path node of shadow ray. So now any ray looking for its light source is going to see the window as completely transparent or not transparent at all. So let's swap these around. There we go. And this way the refraction doesn't mess up the path tracer. You can check out my refraction tutorial if you want a little bit more information about that. But you can see like this as opposed to that. It's nicer. Let's a lot more light in here. Let's turn this back into a room here. And yeah, okay, that looks all right. And I have modeled so many windows in my life, but they're worth doing right because a lot of times the window is a light source, and a light source is inherently going to be like a point of interest in the shot. Anything we put here in the window is going to stand out a lot more than something we like put on a shelf, over here in a dark corner. And so it's a big bang for your buck location to add details, especially things that like define the window shape. In fact, let's make some curtains right now. I'm gonna create a plane, go into local view, use Control R and scroll up to add some, woos. Yes. And then I'll go select, check or deselect, just to easily select every other one. And actually, I'm gonna put my 3D cursor right up here so that then I can just turn this off and rotate. Yeah, like that, and offset it a little bit. Cool, and I'm going to select this whole row of edges here using Control-Alt clicking, and that gets the whole row, and I'm going to bevel it, except I want more of a bevel on this side because they're further apart than over here. So I'm going to change offset to %, turn that back up, And there we go. That makes it a little bit smoother. And you could probably should do this with a cloth sim. That's normally what I do, but this is an easy enough way to do it. I'm actually going to add some variety just since we still have our 3D cursor here. I'm going to turn on proportional editing and just add, some little folds like this going on. Cool. Right click, shade smooth. Actually, well, we'll do that in a second. I'm going to give it a translucent shader, although you should probably mix it with diffuse, but we won't. Make it nice and orange, because that's very in right now. That's looking not great, but maybe it'll look better in a second. I'm going to select this whole loop here at the bottom and extrude it up, because if the fabric is a little bit translucent, you should be able to see like where they've hemmed it up. And I'm going to do the same thing up here at the top. I think I'll just add a little bit of realism. Now we're getting all this weird funkiness, so I'm going to go into the data properties and check auto smooth, and that fixes the whole thing. And now what happens if we put this into our window? And here we'll duplicate it for the other side here, and maybe turn on proportional editing, just kind of tuck this in a little bit. And in fact, we can add an edge loop here, and maybe we'll just scale it out a little bit and kind of have it pulled out, just as if there's some sort of other force acting on it. And how does that look? Oh, that's nice. I love how light looks shining through translucent materials. Like, it's so easy to make something translucent, and then the light just hits it, and it looks great, and it gives this orange cast to the room. I enjoy it. That said, we're not here to make suburban bedrooms. We're here to make space stuff. Although first, if you're ever doing like translucent curtains, put some stuff back there to make it feel like, there's stuff in the room. I don't know. I love that look. And so the first thing we're going to do, because we're smart, is we're going to look at reference, because we know that the thing we picture in our head when we imagine a spaceship window is probably on par with kind of a cartoon, even if it looks like really good in our head. And also because real life is so full of all of these rich details, and you can just take them. It's the same reason we're not going to look at a bunch of other like sci-fi artwork, because then we're just like one step removed from this other person's artwork, even though like sometimes it's a great way to get inspired when you can look at actual kind of like direct real life reference. I always prefer that. And you also get all of these other kind of secondary inspirations. Like, look at this, the double layers of the helmet here reflecting the window frame back into it. That's so cool. And the fact that like the Earth here is just this big white overexposed like sphere in the background. I've never seen it represented that way in like any movie ever. And actually, I love going through the Project Apollo images on Flickr, just because, like, look at all these. These are all pictures that like actual astronauts took on their missions. And you'll notice one weird thing about all of these night skies. It's that none of them have any stars in them. And that's because if your film is exposed for direct sunlight, stars are going to be too faint. And actually, thinking about it, I can't think of a single space movie that doesn't fill their spacescape with 10 bazillion stars all competing with the direct sunlight and like the Milky Way stretching across. And I get it. It's because the Milky Way is like crazy cinematic and kick-ass, and a black void is just a black void and doesn't help look interesting or show motion or anything at all. But it's still a question you have to ask. Like, do I want stars? Do I not want stars? Do I want sound in space? Do I not want sound in space? I think you should have sound in space. I want to hear the spaceship blow up. That's what I think. But okay, this window's really, really simple. Like, we could model this really quick. It looks like it's kind of two pieces of glass with like a big rubber wedge in between and some like foam weather stripping going around in there. I love this one, the little observation pod on the International Space Station. Like, I just love seeing all of these different layers going on, and we're gonna do that. Here's the windows, I think, in the cockpit of the space shuttle. And one thing I think is really interesting is that a lot of this stuff is like a one-off, or it's not mass manufactured. It's engineered specifically to be right here on this space shuttle, and there's an interesting aesthetic to that. And like, everything is accessible because they want to be able to do maintenance. So you have all of these exposed screws, and it's I don't know, it's a unique aesthetic, and I like it. And I love this one. They've got this like sheet of plexiglass velcroed to the inner window, and so I don't even know why. Maybe it's just to protect the window, or maybe they have like different filters that they could stick on there for like different levels of brightness or something for observation. I don't know, but I do know, like, if I ever saw this in a CG render, like it's just a thing velcroed onto a thing, I'd think, this can't be CG. No one would ever think to velcro a piece of plexiglass onto a window, except we can do that now because we've just found this detail. That's a good detail. But yeah, this is an interesting aesthetic right here because it's the minimum number of machined parts just held together with 10 bazillion little thumb screws and things like that. I like that. This really drives home that this is not a mass manufactured thing. This was like specifically engineered to be a window exactly there. That's cool. And of course, back to the observation pod on the International Space Station. I'll be honest, I don't know how to pronounce cupola, but that's its actual name. But yeah, look at all these parts. I love this right here. It's just a row of screws all the way around, and it's like just all of these different layers here. So okay, let's see if we can make something kind of cool. And okay, so I made this yesterday, and it's fine. Actually, I got further than this. I did all this paneling, like logos and stuff on the window, but it was fine. And in my opinion, a tutorial is only seems as good as the final result is, and I want to make the final result a little bit cooler. I think let's try to do like a whole kind of actual cockpit type wraparound deal because I think we could do that and employ some of the things that I learned from doing this one. These types of tutorials are actually always kind of stressful because it's like, hey, come along with me for an hour. Let's make a thing. And if at the end it's like, look at this garbage that we made, you're like, wow, Ian, what an absolutely horrible tutorial. But I don't know until the end if it's gonna be garbage or not. All right, add modifier. Mirror, so we only have to model one side of the cockpit, and I'm going to turn on clipping so that I can bring these together, and now these are merged like that. So let's see if we can kind of mock in a basic kind of cockpit shape. Yes. Oh, see, we nailed it already. Kind of like that. I'm gonna double tap G to slide this over and pull this one back, and I'm gonna bring this base one like that. How's that? Does that kind of feel like how a cockpit should be? Um, yeah, I think so. So my thought is here. Let's add a camera real quick so we get a sense of what we're doing, and then let's get in it. Change it to maybe like 22 millimeters, so it's nice and wide. And yeah, that feels pretty good. In fact, we might even make it a little bit taller. So my thought is we'd have like a window like this, and then another little kind of like side window like that. Like that feels fairly spaceshipy to me. So I want this geometry originally to match that. So I'm gonna double tap G to slide this vertex over like that, and slide this one over too. And yeah, okay, okay. And now Control R, I'm gonna block in the tops and bottoms of these windows. I'm keeping everything a little bit wide because I want a nice big window frame. So I want to give myself lots of room for that window frame so we can finally have the window in the middle. Block in this side here, and I'm gonna select this edge, maybe slide it over and hit Control B to bevel it, and just kind of now we have that thickness between these two windows. Back here, let's keep this one going too. All right, cool. So let's select all of our windows, and most of what we're going to be doing is just like extruding and then insetting and extruding again, but we're doing it in kind of like we're going to try to be smart about it. But first I want kind of a very outer lip. So let's hit Alt E, extrude faces along normals, which means each face is just moving in the orientation that the face is pointing, which is very convenient. I didn't know about that option for a very long time. I to inset a little bit, and then I want to have like a little ledge where there's that row of flaps and screws to make it look as if the window component is attached to the rest of the fuselage. So that'll be right here, and then Alt E, extrude faces along normal, and let's see. I'm gonna add that, but I'm gonna do it again and just go all the way to the total thickness I want the window to be. And like, yeah, that looks pretty good. How's it look from the camera view? Yeah, that looks great to me. And I'm not going to delete these windows. I think I'm actually going to use these to be the window surfaces later. And so I'm going to keep these around. Here, let's smooth out this curve a little bit. Control B. Again, I'm still trying to keep it low poly, and I'm going to try to keep it away from the corners because at some point we're going to be beveling the corners like this. And once this runs into the geometry, our life gets a lot more difficult. So, and there's stuff we can do about that we probably will, but we'll build to that. Okay, so first, I'm going to try to tackle this window, then just do the same thing to this one. I want to add like a little slot where you might be able to stick in like a UV filter or something. Basically, I just want a lot of different layers in there. I want to be able to look out through the window and just see, you're basically getting a cross-section of the hull of the ship. And so the thicker it is, the more solid the ship's going to feel. Whereas if you have it like really thin, it feels like you're in a tin can, which could be really cool, especially, for a lot of movies. But in this case, I want it to be like a big super jumbo jet spaceship type deal. So Control R, I'm gonna slide this over to the front here, and then Control B. I'm gonna scroll down so I only have one loop here. And in fact, in this little bevel panel, I'm gonna change it to, yeah, I'm making sure I have an even offset instead of percent. We'll do percent later. But now I can hit Alt E, extrude faces along normals, just pull that in a little bit. Okay. In fact, here, let's now inset this to give it a little groove, and Alt E, extrude face along normal. And now we have just a little, again, a little groove where we can wedge in like a piece of plexiglass or something like that. You know, we're going to be sticking some sort of plexiglass in there somewhere, like Velcroed on. Very excited about that. Okay, let's do the actual window frame itself. So I'm going to pull this over, Control B, Alt E, extrude faces along normals. This will be the outer kind of frame that holds the piece of glass. I'm gonna have two pieces of glass, kind of an inner one and an outer one. And so this will be the one that holds all of that together. And then inset again, Alt E. This will be the inner piece that holds each piece of glass. You can see we kind of like frame that in. Inset, and now let's bring it back out because why not? Inset again. And this will be like the rubber insulation that I want in there. And let's see. Have we? Ooh, we have kind of gotten a little bit screwy up here. I'm gonna check offset even, and that should kind of square things up. Cool. Okay. I'm gonna Alt click on this loop and Alt Shift click on this loop, and we can hit Control B and kind of smooth out that inner rubber gap. I'm gonna add a little bit more geometry here just to this window, and now I'm actually gonna select all of this and here I'm going to add a little bit more geometry to that one too, yeah. Now I can select all of this and hit P, separate by selection, and I'm going to hide it. I'll bring that back later for when we need it, but for now I think it's fine. We're not going to be changing like the contour shape of the window too much anymore, although I say that and I look at these edges and they're all... Okay, I'm in the middle of editing and I'm finally reading this warning and it says I haven't backed up my drives in 54 years. That's weird. Although I say that and I look at these edges and they're all pretty crisp. Like, you know, what I want to do is just go in here and bevel them all out, smooth the whole thing out. But we'll maybe do that later because first, let's deal with these corners. So if I, Alt click on this and hit Control B, I can bevel this corner out. And I'm going to make sure I'm giving it a lot of geometry because I could imagine there's close-ups and stuff looking out this window. I want to make sure it doesn't look, low poly. Same thing to this one up here, over here. We'll do it too. And if one of these loops got in the way, like say it was over here, and so I could only kind of get this far before, you can see it's having to backtrack the geometry. Actually, that looks okay. Trust me, it isn't. You could hit this and just hit Control X to dissolve it. And now you have all of that extra space, which is cool. Okay, let's actually dissolve this one and just have this one take care of most of it. Yeah. Here, I might do the same thing here and just have this one cover the whole span. And yeah, right here, this is going to be a little wonky. We'll see. We might be shooting ourselves a little bit in the foot here, but Alt click on this, move it to the center, and Control B, and maybe we'll try to split that difference too. And that's smooth enough. All right, let's do the exact same thing, but over here. And okay, this looks good to me. I'm gonna right click shade smooth, and then this looks bad. So under normals, we're gonna check auto smooth, and now everything is nice and crisp. And remember, we can still go in at any time and like slide this around and bevel it if we want to. Although this is looking pretty good to me. Now on this outermost lip here, I want to have that series of flaps and bolts to make it feel as if it's integrated into the rest of the ship. But to get that geometry to match the curvature of the window would be a little bit tricky. So I'm actually going to convert the window frame into a curve so we can erase stuff out along it. So here, I'm going to, in editing mode, I'm going to hit Control R, get this loop here, Shift D to duplicate it, and then hit P, separate by selection. So now we just have this free floating curve here, and I can hit F3, convert curve, and now it's a Bezier curve we can erase stuff out along. When you're arraying something out along a curve, you want it to share the same origin. So I'm going to hit Shift S, cursor to selected. I think I'm doing this all right. And let's create a plane here. I'm going to rotate it so it's facing us. Scale it down, hit SX4. Yeah, so this will be our little thing, and we'll just repeat it out. Let's see, I'll give it a little lip here. Cool. And here, let's divide it up into 4 sections. And I'll just delete this one. So every 4th flap, there's a gap, I guess. And here, let's select these four right here and hit Control Shift B. So we're just beveling these points in kind of a two-dimensional way, and that feels pretty good. Yeah, and here I can select everything. Just extrude it back a little bit, give it some depth. That feels good. Okay, next I'm gonna select this face here, Shift S, cursor to selected, just so we make our bolt right in the center of this little bit here. I'm gonna hit Shift A, cylinder, and let's see, let's give it 8. That we're going to be using this geometry a lot, and so everything we do here is going to be propagated, like 100 times. And so for every vertice we add, it's actually more like we're adding, 100 vertices, which is no pressure. But here, let's keep it nice and low profile here. Gonna scale it down, and then let's see. I guess extrude it in like that could be pretty good. Here, we'll pull it out a little bit. I'm gonna create another cylinder, I guess with 10 vertices. I want it to be round, or like distinctly round. You're gonna add a little washer here. Always, never forget to add your washers. And yeah, okay. That looks pretty good to me. Here, I'll duplicate it on the rest of them. And on the back of this one, I'm just gonna add the rest of the bolt, and maybe we'll attach some stuff in there. But let's see if it all works the way the way that I hoped. So we'll go into modifiers here, add an array modifier, and so now we can add as many of these as we want. And we can also add a curve modifier, and we just select right now the only curve that exists. And yes, okay, I guess that makes sense because this, I didn't realize we actually made two curves here. If I delete this one, I think it'll automatically jump over here, and we'll just take all of this geometry and mirror it over when we're done. There's a degree to which I don't necessarily want to be modeling both things in tandem, so we'll just worry about the right side right now. And you can see right here, it's oriented the wrong way. I'm just going to rotate it 180 degrees on the x-axis. And actually, let's try to make it, I'm going to rotate it till it matches the window frame. And I can still like move it up and down, and it'll follow the curve geometry. Here, let's try turning up the number. And I think I might even want to keep it like nice and small, just have the details really dense. I love having this ring of bolts. That might be a little too small. But curves are weirdly intuitive. Once you kind of figure it out, like it can be hard because you're moving it around in like global space, and that's being transferred to like the curve space. But once you get it figured out, it isn't that tricky. I want to fill up these corners here, so I'm going to tab back into edit mode and just grab these upper faces, and I guess I can just pull them out like this. In fact, can I add a little bit more geometry? It was just getting in the corners a little bit too squared off, and that feels better, especially here. We'll shade smooth and do our usual thing with like checking auto normals. We've got this poking out here, but we can rotate it and fix that, and yeah, I think that feels pretty good. And okay, let's do the exact same thing to this other window. We got this, duplicate, P, separate by selection, F3, convert to curve. This time we know we gotta delete this bit here, and duplicate this, use the new curve. Pow! Hey, and that just works. That's excellent. We just have to tweak the count here to make it match the new window circumference. Cool. Just rotate it a little bit to kind of match the new window geometry. But that feels great. One thing I think I want to do is I want to select this lip here, and I'm going to add another loop here and just extrude it back so that this new geometry is actually kind of like nestled in a groove, which I hope will make it feel less as if it's kind of overlapping. Here, let's see. We'll do it here too. Select this, and then Alt-E, extrude faces along normals. And yeah, that makes it feel as if it's more incorporated, hopefully. And this geometry is right here on the edge of this ledge, so I'm just going to select this loop right here and hit Alt-S, bring it out along its normal a little bit. And I might actually even just add another loop here and extrude it out, and so hopefully it'll just kind of feel as if everything is recessed in a good way. I kind of like the idea of having there be a series of kind of like screw bolts here, as if there's two different modules that have all these clamps that hold it together. Because I love the idea that like spaceships have to be disassemblable so you can do like repairs in space. So we're going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to select one of these loops, maybe this one, Shift D, P, separate by selection, and Shift S, cursor to selected, and let's model just a little clamp thing real quick. I'm gonna do a plane here, and here, go into local view. I don't even really know the best way to go about it. I'm gonna try using a mirror modifier on the y-axis because I want it to be more or less symmetrical, and this will be like that. And bevel these a little bit in this corner. And here, I'll round out these corners too, and select the whole thing. Hit Alt E, extrude faces along normals, and there we go. It looks as like it's kind of made out of like bent aluminum or something like that. Now let's create like a little frame that kind of holds it together. And we won't even really see this up close, so I'm kind of just making up the engineering a little bit. I don't know if this would actually work at all, but let's see. Just try to make it symmetrical, and then we'll pull in these sides, and I guess we'll pull the whole thing in. It's fun to kind of actually work out these parts sometimes, but that is not what we are doing at this exact moment. And then extrude these back together, and here we'll bevel these a little. Select all of it, Alt-E, pull it out. That's cool. And here, I'm going to scale this in, pull it out, up. Cool. Okay, I'm going to select this, Shift S cursor to selection so we can create a cylinder right there. I'm going to uncheck clipping because if we create a cylinder right now, it'd probably be intersecting with itself and you could never separate it again. Shift A cylinder, rotate it 90 degrees, scale it down. We're just doing another bolt thing. Don't forget your washers, inset, extrude, and we'll do another. Whoa, can I grab this? Yeah, there we go. Inset and extrude. Okay, we got our little clamp. Let's see if we can easily arrange this out along the window. So, and we're just going to do what we did before. Here we'll add our array modifier, dun, 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 and a curve modifier where we'll use the last curve that. Oh, did we not actually convert this to a curve? I think we didn't. Okay, F3, convert to curve, and now when we go back here, hopefully this will have our curve. Yes, there we go. And it's, yes, of course, it's over there. Delete that one. Bye. And now it's over here. And we just get to position this so that it's how we want it. And all right, that looks good to me. We're going into this like other lip that we made, so I might select these right here and hit Alt S to bring them down in here. Let's do the whole deal. We're just gonna bring that back. Yeah, okay. And now we just figure out the spacing we want for these guys. I don't want them to be very dense. I don't want it to feel too kind of like copy and pasty. So just having them irregular like this is looks good to me. Here we'll add more till it looks like they're kind of fitting. And yeah, all right. We'll just do the same thing over here on this one now. Actually, this one I'm having trouble getting this geometry out of the way, so I might just get rid of this whole thing here, expand the selection, delete it, and grab these two loops and hit F3 bridge edge loops. And if we want, we could actually, here, we'll add another point in here and hit Alt S to bring it out a little. We'll select these, Control B, and smooth this. And so now it'll look like this is actually the crease that these bolts are holding together. So let's see if we can grab one of these curves here. Shift D, you know the thing. Duplicate this and just update this to plane 008 and we'll just refix the orientation. And okay, here let's add a light and see how it looks like with some nice high contrast space lighting. So I might make this like 7 and yeah, that's looking nice and industrial. I like it. Okay, should we start working on some textures? I think we should. Let's go to this flange bit right here. I should look up the definition of the word flange. Create new. I'm just gonna make it dark. I'm not gonna make these particularly refined. I say now. I probably will at some point. But okay. So the outer bit will be dark. The bolts will be some sort of like metal. So I'm just gonna select all of this thing and hit Control I to invert the selection. Go up here, and this will be black plastic. We're going to create a new one called new dull bolts, and we can assign it to the selected geometry here. And let's see, I want it to be metallic, but I also want it to be pretty dark. I don't want it to be like too distinct from this other plastic bit. So how's that? Oh yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna create an overall color, and I should probably have figured out the overall color scheme. We'll call this just the overall color, and that'll be like what the big walls and stuff are made out of. But next, let's do rubber plus new rubber. Select this this rubber bit here, and I guess well, we'll do this one first and assign that, and then we'll do this one. And now we can turn this one down nice and dark and turn the specular down. If you look at that picture of the actual rubber bumper, you can see it's a fairly even color. It's just like the specularity pattern that really makes it feel like rubber. So we might try to kind of dial that in later. But even if you just look at this right here, I like this. There's also always this like little red trim kind of around the inside of the window, and I don't know what that means or what it's for, but I like it. So let's add that to ours. Here I'm going to grab this bit here, inset it, and add a new one. It'll just be called red trim. Make it red, click assign. Ooh. And I'm wondering if we grab these things and give them the dull bolts color, if that'll be, yeah, that's okay. I'm going to do the same thing for over here. And yeah, I want to try adding some sort of metal texture or something along here. So I'm going to open up the UV editor and I don't know the best way to go about this. I'm going to try selecting one edge loop and just expanding my selection here till I have everything that I want. Yeah, that works. That works pretty good. And you'll notice right now it's a full loop. If we hit U unwrap, like it just stays as a loop, which is kind of hard to work with. So instead, I'm going to select one of these things here and hit Control E mark seam. And that means if we do the same thing again and hit U unwrap, it doesn't keep that part connected. And then if we use the UV squares add-on, which I think comes with Blender, you just have to activate it in the preferences. But you can click to grid by shape, and that makes it a lot easier to line up with different textures. Speaking of which, let's add a new one right now, and we'll just call this window frame and make the base color an image texture. This is going to make things a little bit grungy, but we might tone it back a little bit. I've got this seams collection kind of sample pack that I made out of a bunch of photo bash images, and I'll actually share this down below if you guys want to use it for anything. It's pretty useful. And now we just have to apply this to the geometry that we want. And let's see. I'm going to select all the rubber and all of the red and hide that, and also all of this other stuff. And now, ideally, everything that's left is the stuff that we want to be the window frame material. And so hopefully, hopefully that worked out okay. But now that this is assigned and unwrapped, we should just be able to, I don't know what this other geometry is doing here, but we'll ignore it. Scale it up and just place it somewhere here along these seams. Here, let's go into material preview so we can see what's going on. And what's nice is now all of this geometry will just follow, see that? So we just can line it up with something that we like. It's really easy to suddenly make it all feel a little bit rusty. Although, I don't know, that's not really the aesthetic that we had going on. But it does add a lot of detail, doesn't it? Oh, we've got bolts going. I think I want to avoid the bolts. Yeah, let's see what that looks like when it's rendered. That's okay. Here, let's turn up the ambient thing a little bit. I think I want to keep it a little cleaner than that. So let's use that that texture, but let's use it to control more of like the roughness. And I don't know how this is going to work out, but let's turn up the metallic, make it darker. And let's see. Right now, it's very, very glossy, which looks cool in kind of like a very sleek way. This could be a good way to make a very sleek thing. But I'm gonna dial it in because the dark areas map to being very shiny, and so I'm gonna roughen the whole thing up, and that feels pretty good. I wonder, like, if we made this copper or something, that could be. Ooh, that feels a little bit Apollo, doesn't it? Huh. I wasn't planning on making anything kind of this sleek, but I'm kind of into it. Actually, well, let's mix in some of the original color here instead of doing this. So I'm going to create a mix RGB node. I'm going to sample this one color, but I'm also going to mix in our original texture here. And now we get to decide, or I could even go like multiply or something like that. And there we go. Now it's not a perfect texture, but it's still fairly shiny. Actually, I like that gold now. Okay, just going to unwrap this other side real quick. Let's bring our windows back in. Alt-H, unhide them, and let's see. First I'm gonna make sure this has enough geometry. I might just bevel some of this stuff out, and grab all of this and hit Alt-S to move it along normals. I'm gonna stick it into the first groove that we have right there, and if I really wanted, I could do the same, Alt-S, fix all of this right here, but I think that might be a little too painstaking for this tutorial, so I might just kind of go a little bit quick. I also don't mind in this case that this is sticking out over the edges like this, but if I wanted, I say, and then I do it. I'm like, I'm not going to fix it, but if I did fix it, I would fix it like this. And that's looking okay. Although you can see, because I just moved some of these individually, there's now, it's a little bit bumpy. So I wonder if I can just select all of these and hit like Control V smooth vertices and just like repeat it a couple times. It shrinks the whole thing, but I think that's okay. Here, let's scale it out. Now I'm going to right click, shade smooth, do our usual auto smooth thing, and give it a solidify modifier just to give it a little bit of depth. And let's try giving it a glass shader here. And it's nice and rough. Turn that roughness all the way down. Right now it's hard to see what's happening because it's not, there's nothing for it to like reflect or refract. So let's plug in an HDRI. I'm going to change the color of the world to an environment texture and load in a nice sunny HDRI. And yeah, that feels pretty good. What I really want to do is play around with the roughness of the glass here. So I'm gonna, let's see. First, we have got to unwrap it. Open up our UV editor here, and oh, it's already unwrapped. Well, I still might kind of just look at it and hit U, project from view, and bring that in there. Here we'll unwrap the other one at the same time. They'll both kind of be sampling the same bit of texture. Now if I hit Control T, it'll open up a texture, but instead of tinting the color, we want it to do the roughness. So we'll bring that in and load in a texture that should work okay. I mean, I've got a lot of weird, anything that's kind of gunky should be a little bit interesting. And that doesn't really show up all that well. So here, I'm going to add a color ramp here in the middle, and I'm going to pull this down so until the bright areas start actually doing something. I love how these flecks look right here. That feels really natural. I'm going to add another point in the middle and just darken that up so it isn't all as rough. And there we go. And my guess is if we're looking through like multiple layers here, yeah, that looks really nifty. Okay, so we have one sheet of glass. I'm going to do my little trick with the transparent shader here so it isn't casting any shadows because we're going to be having a lot of different layers of things going on here. Light path is shadow ray. I should probably readjust my workspace here, but there we go. And I always get it backwards on the first time, so pow! But now if I tab into edit mode here and I duplicate this and hit Alt S, I can hopefully just bring it forward to the other side of the rubber stopper. Now we have two layers of glass, which is kind of interesting. And if we wanted to vary things up, we could like, rotate the UV map so it's using a different selection of the texture here. And it looks like this isn't filling things up very well, so I might just scale it up a little bit and just massage some of these vertices really quick. Or that seems to have fixed it. And I do want to add like a sheet of plexiglass going through there, as if it's like maybe a sun visor, or, those fold down things you have that protect your eyes from a certain wavelength of light. So I'm going to duplicate this, Alt S, move it along its normal, and let's just set it up so it looks as if it's kind of like nestled in these clips here. Yeah, that's good. P, separate by selection. I want this one to be nice and thick, so turn up the thickness of the solidify modifier. Delete this material, and we'll give it some glass, which is turn the roughness down, and maybe just make it like a little bit yellow, or maybe turn the roughness up just a tad. And yeah, I don't know. That looks pretty cool to me. We could, if we wanted, go in and like add a roughness map to this one too, but I don't know. That might be overkill. Ah, this one looks like scratches though. Let's use that. And how's that? Yeah, just right out the gate. That works. That works okay. I'm gonna scale it up so that the texture's a little bit more dense. And yeah, okay. And okay, I'm gonna select the overall color here, and let's work on that. I actually made kind of a diamond-plated quilted normal map, which I'm gonna load in right now, right there. And I think I already shared this with the Patreon, but I'll share it again below. And you can see we kind of need to unwrap this. So I wonder if I can just hit like U unwrap and if it'll do it smart. Yeah, that's fine. We could probably do it a lot better, but that's okay. I'm gonna rotate it just a tad so that this seam right here lines up. In fact, let's scale it up even bigger than that. We could give that more love, but we won't. I'm gonna drag this down so it's not purple. It is actually, we're using it as a bump map. I just have to go into create a normal map. Nope. I always do that. Normal map and plug it into the color. Yes. And change the sRGB to non-color data because it's trying to give us normal information, not like color information. But look at that. That's nice and that's quilted. So usually I could clean up this seam a little bit better. If it were me working, which it is, I would just add some junk and greebles and stuff there to hide the seam so I don't have to worry about actually making anything nice. But let's see, what else do we want to do? Let's add some text onto the window. Shift right click to set the 3D cursor there. And text, where are you? Text. Do not tap on glass. And for once, the default, here, we'll go into solid view. The default font in Blender is what we want. We'll rotate this so it kind of aligns with the glass right here. And here we want as close as we can get. Yeah, like that. Here, we'll set it up down here. Now we'll go under modifiers and use shrink wrap and select our window. And look at that, it just fits right on there. Here we can put another one up here. It has to be on this side of the glass though to work. So we've got to kind of pull it out. Yeah, that works okay. And let's see, I'm optimistic that if I just add a mirror modifier here, it'll just pop over onto the, hey, okay, great, it does. I'll do the same thing here. And while we're here, I'm just going to grab this top thing and kind of pull it back. Let's actually kind of make it feel as if it's a cockpit or something. Here, we'll fill this in F. And here, we'll grab this little row here. And how's that look? I'm going to select all of these new faces here because they're not unwrapped or properly textured or anything. And let's just give them a new material, assign. And this will be called like just an overall metal. Yes. We pull this open, hit U, unwrap. How's that look? If we just click to grid by shape, does that? Oh, okay, that's nice and clean. So now we just have to find a good texture here. We want something clean, but not too clean. Huh. This isn't an aesthetic I really work with a lot, like clean spaceship stuff, and so I don't know which way to lean texture-wise. I think this one might be a little bit too dirty and low res, but let's give it a shot and see what it looks like. We got to load it in over here too. It's called Window Frame, and yeah, I'm just going to scale this up so it really... Yeah, this is maybe... I don't know, it's fine. It's just so the render looks nice, you know? And if we want, we can add a little chrome lip here. I like adding chrome lips. They're a way to make it feel as if everything is being done on purpose, you know? Alt-E, extrude faces along normal. Grab the top and bottom bit here. Control-B to bevel it. And Control-plus on the numpad to expand the selection. Here, we'll just hit plus. We're going to add our chrome. And it's metallic, and it's bright, and it's not very rough. And yeah, that looks good. And here, I'm gonna turn off the HDRI right now. Let's put it in space. So space is, again, very dark, and no stars because we're realistic. And the light does not seem to be shining in through the windows, which probably means, here we'll call this glass. I got my little thing backwards again, which means I got it right the first. Whoa, what's it doing? Oh, it's on translucent, not transparent. You guys at home probably saw that and think I'm an idiot. And okay, how's that looking now? I like it. Okay, so the mirroring on this, like to make these grime patterns not perfectly mirrored, you would just want to apply the modifier and just offset or, you know, rotate it or something like that to throw that off. And okay, let's add something out here. So I'm gonna hit F3, images as planes, go to space, and this could work okay. I want something that kind of matches the perspective of the sun already coming in, which I'm not sure if I actually have anything that does that. Yeah, let's try this one. It's kind of weird because there's a lens flare in there, but maybe that won't be. Or do I have a better one? I probably do, but let's see how it looks. Stick it in the background here. Scale it way up. You can see it's casting shadow. We don't want that, so I'm going to go under the object properties and under visibility, just uncheck shadow. And I think now it won't affect the lighting in that way. I do want it to, go across all of the windows here. Let's change the camera to be a panoramic, and we'll set this to like 25, so we can just really get right in here. And Control-B, set a border for the render. And I'm actually going to make the light even brighter. For space scenes, I love having the sun really bright because, like, in space, there's no atmosphere or anything. So the sun is really bright, but also because the rest of space is black, there's no, like, easy fill light. And so you want to have, like, the only source of fill light is the sun bouncing off of something like a planet or other parts of the spaceship to fill in those shadows. And so having the light nice and bright means that can happen a little easier. And, of course, we've got our scanned cockpit assets. So let's select some of these and see what they look like if we just drop them right in there. Here, let's grab this one too, and maybe that one. I don't think the aesthetics will perfectly match, but they might. To scale them all up to match a little bit better. Here, I'm going to make this fit kind of like right in there. A little bigger will fall. Yeah, that'll just be up there. In fact, I wonder if I could like mirror it without getting too nasty, you know? I saw my kid stumbling around so trashed. I said, this is it. You're about to get bashed. It dodged to the left, thinking it was so fancy. I said, oh, Oh, we're about to get nasty. Gonna nasty bash. And yeah, this works okay. And actually, I think I like this angle kind of to the side a little bit more. And let's see if we can kind of like tweak the. I want some of the light to be hitting the inside of this window frame right here to really show off our our details in there. And yeah, this feels pretty good. In fact, should I make it even brighter, son? Okay, now let's hit render and see what this looks like high res. And while this is rendering, I do want to say, like, for me, this is where the fun bit starts. Like, once you've gotten all of the base structures out of the way, but then you get to go in and add, like, new modules on here and maybe run cables over the old stuff or, like, little Post-it notes and things that, like, they've left to remember things, or, like, a hat sitting somewhere or cups of coffee. I love the idea of, like, a row of little cacti or, like, succulents on the dashboard in a spaceship. That just seems very silly to me. And the other cool thing is that, like, now that you've established this visual language for the ship, it's really easy to add new compartments and modules and stuff, because you just get to use, like, you know, the white quilted stuff for the walls, and for any recessions, you just extrude it and you bevel it and you convert it into curves, and you add these same detailed bits over and over, and it's you get to propagate the details really quick, and it still feels really consistent with the rest of the stuff. And so it's kind of like we just did the hard bit, which always makes me feel good. And oh, this little bit over here where the sun's kind of hitting the geometry from the side right there, that looks so good to me. Oh no, we forgot to finish this window. Oh no, the glass isn't fully, well, those astronauts are gonna have some problems. And all right, final denoised render. I like it. So all of the cockpit assets are a little bit kit bashy. They all kind of look jammed in there. And if I'd actually taken a little bit of time and like created mounts and recessions and things and kind of incorporated this bit and these bits a little better, would have looked 200% better. But I still dig the vibe and the fact like how much that sun is doing. It feels like a place you could actually kind of sit. I dig it. I dig it a lot more than the one I did yesterday. But yeah, gonna post this. And Nathan's got his next color video. He finished that a couple days ago, so I think I'm gonna post that tomorrow probably. I will talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out.